My name is Cameron Reed. I'm 34 and I live in Boston. The story I'm about to tell you happened almost 4 years ago, around New Year's 2022. The kind of night people post glittery photos about and swear they'll leave the drama behind. That year, I should have trusted my instincts and stayed home. But my boyfriend Ethan squeezed my hand in the car and said, "It's one night, Cam. We go in, we smile, we leave early. Lily deserves at least one normal holiday." And when you're trying to be a good mother, normal becomes a drug. You'll swallow even when you know it's poison. My parents' house sat in the Boston suburbs like a polished display case. 2 stories, bright porch lights, and windows glowing warm as if love lived in there. The second we walked in, my father, Joseph, gave Ethan the kind of handshake that wasn't a greeting. It was a test. "You still doing photography?" he asked me, eyes flicking to my coat like he was checking for a hidden bill he'd have to pay. I forced a smile. "I'm freelancing, building it back up." He nodded once, already bored, like my life was a channel he refused to watch. My mother, Linda, floated in behind him, smiling too brightly. She hugged Lily, kissed her hair, then stepped back as if affection had a time limit. And then my older sister Danielle appeared, perfect hair, expensive dress, phone already in her hand, capturing the night like she was collecting proof she had a better family than everyone else. Dinner was fine, not warm, not loving, just fine the way a room is fine right before thunder breaks. Lily sat beside Ethan, swinging her legs, humming under her breath. She was 8 then, sharp-eyed and quietly brave, like she'd learned early that adults can smile while they're hurting you. When we finished eating, Lily asked, "Can I play on your phone for a bit?" I handed it over without thinking because she was happy. For once, she looked like she belonged. The table had barely been cleared when Lily came running back, clutching my phone with both hands. Her little face had gone still. Not angry, not sad. Confused in that way that makes your stomach drop. Because kids don't understand cruelty until someone teaches them. "Mom," she said softly, "why am I not in Grandma's pictures?" I blinked. "What do you mean, honey?" She turned my phone toward me and I saw my mother's Facebook page, New Year's album, photo after photo, bright and shiny. And in every single one there was a space. A space where Lily had been standing. A space where Ethan had been smiling. A space where I had been holding my daughter's hand. I scrolled faster, my thumb going numb. One picture by the fireplace, everyone's faces lit up, except the spot where Lily had been sitting on the rug was suddenly empty. Another photo at the table, Danielle toasting, except the chair where Ethan had been was gone, like it never existed. I opened another and another, almost 50 photos, and not one had my little family in it. A cold feeling slid down my spine like ice water. I looked up slowly. The living room had gone quiet. Danielle stopped laughing mid-sentence. My mother's smile stiffened, and my father leaned back in his chair like he'd been waiting for this moment. "Mom," I said, voice careful because I knew him. "What is this?" My father answered for her, calm as a locked door. "How we post photos. Who's in them? That's our business." I laughed once, but it came out shaky. "No, that's not business. That's my child. You erased my child." Linda's eyes darted away. Danielle suddenly became very interested in the edge of her own wine glass. My heart started hammering. "You edited these," I said, turning to Danielle. "You did it, didn't you?" Danielle didn't deny it. She didn't even look ashamed. She just lifted her chin slightly and said, like it was a simple task at work, "Dad asked me to." The room tilted. I looked at my father. "You asked her to erase us?" His eyes narrowed. "Enough." "No," I snapped, surprising myself with the force of it. "Not enough. Explain it. Lily deserves an explanation." Ethan stood quietly beside me, one hand on Lily's shoulder, grounding her. I saw his jaw tighten, but he didn't speak, because he knew this wasn't just a fight. It was a lifetime. My father's voice turned sharp. "You're living under my roof right now. Don't push it." The words hit like tiny needles. Yes, we'd been staying there for 3 months. My photography studio had gone under, and Boston rent didn't care about my pride. But until that second, I hadn't felt like a beggar. My father's gaze dropped to Lily like she was something stuck to the bottom of his shoe. And then he said it, the sentence that still makes my throat close when I remember it. "The daughter of a failure is also a shame." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Lily's eyes widened. Her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but no sound came out. Ethan's arm tightened around her protectively, and he murmured, "Don't listen to that. You hear me? You're perfect." But the damage was already done. I turned to Linda, desperate for even 1 ounce of mother in her. She didn't give it. She just said softly, like she was reading a rule book, "Joseph has a point. Ever since you moved back, the neighbors, they talk. I stared at her. So you erased my child because you're worried about neighbors? Danielle finally spoke, voice flat. Cam, you're being dramatic. Something in me cracked. I stood up so fast my chair scraped loudly across the floor. I'd rather be homeless, I said, each word steady, than let my daughter be erased from her own family. Joseph's face hardened like stone. Then get out. Linda gasped, but didn't stop him. Danielle smirked, small, quick, satisfied. Ethan didn't argue. He just nodded once at me, like he'd been ready for this too, and said quietly, "Okay, we're leaving." We packed in silence. Clothes, documents, Lily's favorite stuffed rabbit. I tried to keep my hands from shaking because mothers aren't supposed to shake. When we walked out the front door with suitcases, the house behind us looked exactly the same as it always had. Warm lights, pretty windows. A perfect photo. And we were no longer in it. As we reached the car, Danielle called after me, sweet as sugar over a knife. "You'll be back in a few days begging." I didn't answer, because the truth was, I didn't know if she was right. I slid into the driver's seat, Ethan buckled Lily in the back, and we drove away into the freezing night. The road blurred, my eyes burned, and my mind kept replaying old scenes like a cruel highlight reel. 16 years old, winning a photography scholarship, no one there because they were watching Danielle at a school event instead. My graduation, one card, $100, and a congrats written like an afterthought. Danielle's law school graduation, she got a car. And every time I dared to dream with a camera in my hands, Joseph's voice, "You'll never amount to anything with those pictures." I was drowning in those memories when my phone rang. I glanced at the screen and my heart jerked. "Grandpa Robert," I answered, and before I could even speak, his voice came through, low, firm, urgent. "Where are you?" I swallowed. "How did you—" "Lily texted me," he cut in. "Bring them to my house, now." I looked in the rearview mirror. Lily met my eyes and gave me the smallest, bravest smile. Ethan leaned forward. "She did what?" Lily's voice was quiet but clear. "Grandpa told me, if anything ever happened, to tell him." My chest tightened, because in that moment I realized something terrifying and beautiful. Someone had seen this coming. We reached Grandpa Robert's wooden house near midnight. The lights were on like he'd never gone to bed at all. He opened the door in pajamas, silver hair messy, eyes sharp even at 78. Eyes that had seen war zones through a lens and never blinked. He hugged me so tight my breath caught. Then he knelt and hugged Lily, and Lily whispered into his shoulder, "Thank you for not erasing me." Grandpa's face twitched. Pain, anger, love, all at once. "Nobody," he said, voice rough, "has the right to erase you from anything, sweetheart." Later, after Ethan and Lily fell asleep on blankets in the living room, Grandpa poured 2 glasses of whiskey and sat with me by the fireplace. The flames danced across the photos lining his walls, battlefields, portraits, history frozen in frames. And then he looked at me like he was making a decision. "Tomorrow," he said, "we go see your father." I opened my mouth to protest, but he lifted a hand. "Let me do the talking," he added. "And Cameron, don't get angry, no matter what he says." I stared into the fire, feeling that old fear creeping up my throat. "Why are you doing this?" I whispered. Grandpa's gaze didn't waver. "Because I have a secret," he said slowly, "big enough to protect you." The words sent a chill across my skin. Not comfort, not reassurance. Leverage. And as the fire crackled and my daughter slept in the next room, I realized the new year hadn't started with a celebration. It had started with a war. Morning came too fast. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lily's face when she asked why she wasn't in the pictures. That quiet confusion, that small, careful voice. At exactly 8 a.m., Grandpa Robert was already dressed. Pressed jacket, polished shoes, posture straight, like he was heading into a battlefield instead of my parents' living room. "Leave Ethan and Lily here," he said gently. "She doesn't need to hear grown people lie." I kissed Lily's forehead before we left. She wrapped her arms around my neck and whispered, "You'll come back, right?" "I promise," I said, and for once, I meant it without doubt. The drive to my parents' house felt heavier than the night before. Grandpa stared out the window, silent, jaw set. I tried to read him, but he was unreadable, like one of his old war photos where you don't realize how bad it is until you look closer. When we pulled into the driveway, my chest tightened. This house, the one my father bragged about, the one he said he built with his own hands, the one that suddenly felt like it was sitting on something rotten. Before I rang the bell, Grandpa turned to me. "Whatever he says," he murmured, "you don't respond. Let me handle it." The door opened. Joseph froze when he saw us. His mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "Dad, what are you doing here?" Grandpa didn't wait for an invitation. He walked straight past him, shoulders squared, like the house still remembered who had helped build it. "I'm here for Cameron and Lily," Grandpa said. Joseph's face darkened. "This is family business. It doesn't concern you." Linda appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel, voice instantly sweet. "Let's all calm down." "Not you," Joseph snapped, without even looking at her. She shrank back like she was used to it. That was when Grandpa turned fully toward his son. "You erased your granddaughter from family photos," he said evenly. "You humiliated my granddaughter. You will apologize. Today." Joseph laughed. Actually laughed. "Apologize?" he scoffed. "For protecting this family's image?" I felt my hands curl into fists, but I stayed silent, exactly like Grandpa asked. "You need to welcome Cameron and her family back," Grandpa continued, "and you will stop treating that child like she doesn't exist." Joseph's face twisted. "You have no idea what it's like being embarrassed by your own children." Grandpa's eyes flashed. "I fed you with my career when you were young." "That did it," Joseph exploded. "Your stupid photography?" he shouted. "My friends laughed at me when they found out my father was a nobody with a camera." The words hit like glass shattering. I'd never seen my father talk to Grandpa like that. Ever. Grandpa's hands trembled, just slightly, but his voice stayed steady. "I'm giving you one last chance," he said. "Apologize. Fix this. Or don't blame me for what comes next." Joseph leaned back, arms crossed, smug. "Get out of my house." Grandpa studied him for a long second. Then he said the words that changed everything. "Don't worry," he said quietly. "This house won't be yours much longer." Joseph's smile vanished. I felt the air leave my lungs. We left without another word. On the drive back, Grandpa didn't explain. Not yet. But when we reached his house, he didn't hesitate. He picked up the phone and dialed a number he clearly knew by heart. "Michelle," he said when she answered, "I need you here, today." 2 hours later, Michelle Garcia walked into Grandpa's office. Sharp suit, calm eyes, confidence that filled the room. Grandpa pulled out an old file folder. "I need to collect the $400,000 I loaned Joseph," he said. The number rang in my ears. 400,000. Michelle nodded like she'd been expecting this call for years. "When?" she asked. 15 years ago, when he bought the house. "No contract?" she pressed. "No formal one," Grandpa admitted. "But I have emails, transfers." Michelle smiled slightly. "That'll do." I sat there stunned as Grandpa opened his old laptop, fingers slower now, but still precise. The email popped up. Confirmation of a massive transfer into Joseph's account. The house wasn't just built on pride. It was built on borrowed money. Michelle explained the plan. Official demand letter. Then court, if necessary. "This isn't just about money," she said, glancing at me. "This is about stopping a pattern." That evening, the demand letter went out, and the storm arrived faster than I expected. Joseph showed up at Grandpa's house screaming. Linda followed, crying, blaming me for everything. "You useless girl," she hissed. "You ruined our family." Grandpa stood between us, calm as a wall. "This is about how you treated Cameron and Lily," he said. Joseph stepped closer, voice venomous. "I dare you to get that money back. You have no proof." I didn't know Lily was standing in the hallway. I didn't know she was holding my phone. I only realized it later, when she walked out, eyes bright, holding the screen up proudly. "I recorded the truth," she said. Grandpa stared at her, then pulled her into his arms, emotion breaking through his control for the first time. Michelle called 10 minutes later. "This changes everything," she said. They admitted intent, loudly. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt fear. Because I knew my parents, and I knew they wouldn't stop. 2 weeks passed. On the surface, things went quiet, but it was the kind of quiet that presses on your ears, the kind that makes you flinch every time a car slows outside the house. Ethan tried to keep things normal for Lily. Breakfast pancakes, homework at the kitchen table, movie nights where he let her stay up 10 minutes past bedtime like a secret pact between them. But I could see it in his eyes. He was waiting for the next hit. So was I. It came on a Thursday afternoon, wrapped in leather seats and a luxury engine. Danielle's black BMW rolled up Grandpa's driveway like it owned the place. She stepped out, looking exactly the way she always did. Perfect hair, tailored coat, expression carefully practiced, somewhere between concern and superiority. "I just want to talk," she said when she saw me through the window. "Just us." Grandpa raised an eyebrow. "You don't get privacy here." Danielle smiled thinly. "This is sister business." Against my better judgment, I stepped onto the porch with her. The cold air cut through my jacket, sharp and grounding. She didn't waste time. "You're destroying the family," she said quietly, like she was delivering bad news at a hospital. I laughed once, bitter. "Funny. I thought erasing my child from photos did that." Danielle looked away for a second, just long enough for me to notice. "You think I don't know I'm favored?" she said. "I've always known. That surprised me. I know what Dad does, she continued. I know how he treats you. But I stayed quiet because favoritism isn't free. You earn it by not rocking the boat. My throat tightened. So you erased Lily to stay on his good side? Her silence was answer enough. Then she made her offer. Mom and Dad will give you $50,000, she said. You convince Grandpa to drop the lawsuit. We all move on. I stared at her. 50,000, I repeated slowly, for my dignity, for my daughter's safety. She snapped, frustration flashing. What do you want, Cameron? Revenge? To burn everything down? I leaned in just enough for her to hear me clearly. I want them to understand they don't get to treat my child like she's invisible. Danielle's jaw clenched. If you don't stop this, you'll lose the family forever. I met her gaze without flinching. I already did. She left without another word. 3 days later, we were in court. The courtroom smelled like old paper and polished wood. Judge Williams sat high above us, unreadable, glasses low on her nose. Joseph's lawyer spoke smoothly. This was a gift, a father helping his son, no repayment expected. Michelle stood and dismantled that story piece by piece. Emails, transfers, dates. Then she played Lily's recording. My father's voice echoed through the courtroom. I dare you to get that money back. You have no proof. Joseph went pale. The judge ordered mediation. Joseph refused. Outside the courtroom, he leaned close to me and hissed, You'll regret this. For the first time in my life, I didn't shrink. I watched him walk away and felt something strange settle in my chest. Not relief. Acceptance. Because whatever happened next, I wasn't going back. I thought the worst part would be court. I was wrong. 2 days after that hearing, Grandpa Robert and I left early in the morning to meet Michelle and prepare additional documents. Ethan stayed home with Lily, insisting he'd be fine. They won't show up again, he said, trying to convince himself more than me. Not after court. I kissed Lily goodbye, pressed my forehead to hers. If anything feels weird, I told her softly, you call me, immediately. She nodded, serious. I promise. 30 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Lily. Her voice was barely a whisper. Mom, Grandma and Aunt Danielle are here. My blood turned cold. I heard Linda's voice in the background, sweet, syrupy, fake. Tell your mommy not to worry. We're just visiting. I didn't even say goodbye. I grabbed Grandpa's arm and ran for the car. When we pulled into the driveway, Linda's car was parked crookedly, tires pressed into Grandpa's carefully tended grass like a deliberate insult. Inside, the atmosphere was wrong, heavy, tense. Linda sat on the couch beside Lily, stroking her hair like she owned her. Danielle stood near the door, arms crossed, watching Ethan like a guard sizing up a threat. Oh, good, Linda said when she saw me, standing up quickly. You're back. We were just worried. Get away from my daughter, I said, my voice shaking with rage I didn't bother hiding. Linda frowned, offended. Cameron, don't be dramatic. We just miss her. Danielle stepped forward. You've dragged everyone into a mess. Don't you see that? Ethan moved in front of Lily without thinking. You need to leave. Linda's face changed. The warmth vanished. You're not qualified to decide what's best for her, she said sharply. This environment is unstable. Courts don't like instability. My stomach dropped. You're threatening us, I said. She smiled. I'm warning you. Lily suddenly broke free from Ethan's side and ran to me, burying her face in my jacket. I was scared, she whispered. That was it. Before I could react, Grandpa Robert stepped forward. He was holding a baseball bat. At 78, he'd never looked more dangerous. Get out of my house, he said calmly. Now. Danielle scoffed, until Grandpa took one deliberate step closer. I've photographed war zones, he continued evenly. You think I'm afraid of you? They left without another word. The door slammed so hard the windows rattled. Lily clung to me, crying quietly, her small body shaking. I held her and whispered over and over, I've got you. I promise, I've got you. That night, I didn't sleep at all, because I finally understood something painful and freeing. This wasn't about money. It was about survival. And I was done pretending they wouldn't cross lines they'd already erased. The final hearing was set for the following week. I walked into Suffolk County Court with my stomach in knots, my hand locked around Grandpa Robert's, like I was afraid the ground might give out beneath us. Ethan stayed home with Lily this time. After what Linda and Danielle tried to pull, I couldn't risk my daughter anywhere near that building, or them. Judge Williams entered the courtroom without ceremony. No small talk, no softness. She reviewed everything. The loan, the emails, the bank transfers, the recordings, the video of Linda and Danielle threatening to take Lily. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm, sharp, and absolute. The court finds that the $400,000 transferred to Joseph Reed was a loan, not a gift. I felt my lungs finally expand. The defendants are ordered to repay $700,000, including principal and accrued interest, plus a harassment penalty. Joseph collapsed back into his chair like someone had pulled the strings out of him. Linda sobbed openly. Danielle stared straight ahead, lips pressed tight, like she was trying to hold her world together by sheer will. Grandpa didn't smile. As we passed Joseph on the way out, Grandpa stopped. He leaned down and said quietly, almost sadly, "I didn't want this, but you left me no choice." Joseph didn't answer. 2 months later, Michelle called. "They sold the house," she said. "Funds are ready." She asked Grandpa what he wanted to do with the money. Grandpa told her to prepare documents. For me. When I walked into Michelle's office and saw the check, $700,000, my legs nearly gave out. "This is yours," Grandpa said, pushing it toward me. I shook my head instinctively. "No, this is your money." He smiled, gentle but unmovable. "Your parents will leave everything to Danielle. This is how I make sure you and Lily get your fair share." I cried then. Not loud, not dramatic. Just the kind of crying that comes from finally being chosen. 4 years passed. I rebuilt slowly, carefully. A small photography studio, a modest house near Grandpa's, no flashy signs, no fake smiles. Just real people, real families. Lily grew up surrounded by cameras and truth. By 12, she could frame a shot better than most adults. Grandpa taught her everything: composition, patience, how to wait for the right light instead of forcing it. One afternoon, the bell above my studio door rang. I looked up. Danielle stood there. No designer coat, no arrogance, just tired eyes and a quiet voice. "I was wrong," she said, "about everything." We talked, carefully, honestly. I didn't forgive her that day, but I didn't shut the door either. When she left, Lily pointed to the photo wall in the studio. Families frozen in moments that mattered. "There's space there," she said softly. "Maybe someday." I hugged her tight and looked out the window where Grandpa was photographing the sunset with his old camera. No one would ever erase us again. Not from photos. Not from memory. Not from our own lives.